Swadika, thank you for joining us on Newsline. We're broadcasting live on NBT Radio Thailand FM 88 and on NBT World. It's Thursday and the date is January 22nd of 2015 and you're with me, Sandra Han Utsaha. Welcome to today's segment of Thailand Moves Forward. In our first story, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha has presented the government's budget for the fiscal year 2016 with great emphasis on transparency and Thailand becoming a stronger nation. General Prayut delivered his policy speech before over 1,000 government and state enterprise officials yesterday. The objective is to raise awareness of how best the national budget would be spent for the benefit of the country. The Prime Minister also urged every government agency to spend the money wisely and adapt to the changing world. They are expected to stay in line with the second phase of the government's roadmap that is focused on consolidating the country, promoting public participation in a top-down approach, and preparing Thailand for the AEC. They have also been advised to adopt His Majesty the King's sufficiency philosophy to their budget plan. General Prayut added that he was confident of the efficiency of the 2016 budget allocation. General Prayut also talked about the international community, saying that they are more understanding towards Thailand now than before, and that many have been cooperative in various areas of development, and they all hope that democracy would be restored soon. As the price of rubber has plummeted, the government and related sectors have released a number of policies to solve the issue. One of the policies involves the use of technology, and Kunsuchani Rungmanpon has this report for us.
Rubber growing is one of the most important agricultural activities in the Thai economy, and Thailand is the world leader in the production and export of rubber in the world's market. The countrywide harvest of rubber tree sap has increased over the past decade, as shown in the line graph, revealing that the amount of rubber produced in 2004 was 2.88 million tons, rising to 4.17 million tons in 2014. This triggered a spate of rubber tree plantings in the country, eventually to overplanting, which led to the rubber crisis in 2014, when the price of rubber plunged to approximately 50 baht per kilogram, which is 3 times less when compared to the price in 2012, when the rubber price was approximately 150 baht per kilogram. One of the main reasons is that China, Thailand's main client, changed from importer to producer of rubber and needed to import much less rubber from Thailand. Another reason is a slowdown in the world's economy. The government has released a number of policies to mitigate the effects of the low price problem, such as granting financial aid to rubber farmers, launching a rubber market restructuring plan, and promoting an expanded investment in rubber by Thai businesses. Besides urging the private sector to do so, the government itself is also trying to come up with inventive ideas. One of the projects that seems to be promising is the athletics track project invented by the Ministry of Science and Technology.
I have shown this to our Prime Minister, and now we are engaging a number of ministries who are at the demand end of rubber usage. For example, Ministry of Education, where there are athletic fields in schools. Ministry of Tourism, where they have a vision of setting up bike lanes in many places. Or even the Ministry of Interior, where they run a large number of public parks where rubber tracks can also be useful at the local level even. We have found that through our technology development, we can reduce cost at least by 30%. So that's quite a lot of money saved. At the same time, if it can be certified by agencies such as the International Athletic Association, then we are quite confident that this is something that the Thai industry, Thai factories can take up this technology through the transfer of the Ministry of Science and Technology to production.
Moreover, the ministry also promotes a policy of purchasing more domestic products and engaging services which are up to the international standard in building needed facilities, instead of only exporting high-value materials. Sushani Rumanpon reporting.
Thank you to Khun Sushani for that report. And the National Anti-Corruption Commission, or NACC, has delivered the closing statement for the impeachment hearing against former Senate Speaker Nikhom Vairachaphanit to open the way for the National Legislative Assembly, or NLA, to make its final verdict. NACC member Wicha Mahakun, who declared the hearing's closure in his capacity as the claimant, said the impeachment of Mr. Nikhom would mark the beginning of the country's reform and serve as a tool to test the balance in political power. Mr. Wicha also confirmed that the former Senate Speaker's action was still punishable despite the revocation of the 2007 Constitution, adding that the penalties would be different from those of a criminal case. In response to the accusation of power manipulation and malfeasance in the attempt to amend the Constitution clause regarding the origin of senators, Mr. Nikhom insisted that he was empowered as the Senate Speaker at the time to close the debate upon the suggestion by some senators. He also denied having any vested interest in the charter change. The NLA, meanwhile, has requested the NACC to single-handedly provide the closing statement for the hearing against former House Speaker Somsakhit Soronon, since the accused has given the NLA neither a verbal closure nor a written form of his defense. The trial on Mr. Somsakh's case will only be based on the evidence and explanations previously given by the former House Speaker to the NLA. The NLA members are also preparing to set the date for the opening of the impeachment case of 38 former senators involved in the charter amendment bid. The accused have requested to add one more witness for the trial. All of them have agreed to attend the opening of the case by themselves. The National Legislative Assembly, or NLA, is scheduled to formally open the impeachment trials against 38 former senators at the end of February. The NLA session, chaired by President Phonphet Vichitcholathai, discussed the impeachment motion against 38 former senators for their endorsement of the illegal charter amendment regarding the composition of the Senate. Some NLA members said they did not agree with calls that 16 former senators, who are currently members of the legislature, should not be allowed to take part in the deliberation of the impeachment cases. Mr. Phonphet added that there is not any provision in any laws that forbids the former senators turned NLA members from participating in the upcoming trials. The NLA then resolved to set the opening date of the impeachment trials for February 25th. The National Reform Council, or NRC, says the country reform blueprint will be written in the permanent constitution. Speaking about the outcome of the two-day vision workshop, Secretary of the NRC Whip, Alongkorn Polabut, said a total of 170 issues were discussed. The participants agreed that the NRC should have a clear goal in reform and a direction for the country. He said the results of the workshop, when concluded, will be forwarded to the 18 reform body committees, who will use the information to draw up a reform blueprint, which will be added to the new constitution. Mr. Alongkorn expects the blueprint to be completed by March. The secretary to the NRC Whip went on to disclose that the matter of reform and reconciliation will be included in the new charter, and that an organization will be established to ensure that the National Reform Plan will be achieved. The Constitution Drafting Committee, or CDC, says an election court will not be formed. According to General Lerrat Ratanawanit, advisor and spokesperson to the Constitution Drafting Committee, or CDC, the charter drafters will not establish an election court amid fears that there could be problems and consequences. As a result, he said the Court of Appeals will be the one to make the final decision on giving out yellow and red cards to election candidates. He went on to say that the CDC agreed that the Federal Court of Appeals, the Regional Court of Appeals, and the Specialized Court of Appeals should have the authority to disqualify candidates running for MPs or adjudicate cases concerning electoral frauds and election-related crimes. The National News Bureau of Thailand, or NNT, celebrated the 17th anniversary of its establishment yesterday, January 21st of 2015. NNT, a news agency under the supervision of the Government Public Relations Department, or PRD, was first established on January 21st of 1998 with a purpose of disseminating news and information, as well as publicizing strategic policies and special campaigns promoted by the Thai government and other related agencies. PRD Director General Mr. Apinan Jantarangsi presided over the auspicious occasion. With a target audience of Thais and foreigners, NBT World offers a variety of programs in English that reflect Thailand and the ASEAN community to audiences around the world. NBT World can be viewed on C-band set-top boxes, GMMZ Channel 202 and PSI Channel 272, and via live stream on the thainews.prd.go.th/newsing website. The Bank of Thailand, or BOT, estimates that Thai exports in 2015 will see a growth of 1.0% following the GSP cut by the European Union, which has been effective since January. BOT spokesman Jirathep Seniwong Nayutaya said Thailand should begin to feel the pinch right in the first quarter of 2015. However, he was optimistic that the impacts would be at an acceptable level, as Thai exports that used to benefit from the GSP in the European Union, or EU, market account only for 4% of the country's total exports. Besides this, the EU still needs such imports as auto parts that is, cars and electrical equipment from Thailand. According to him, Thai exporters would only have to pay 2 to 6% more in terms of taxes without the GSP. Only canned pineapples and processed seafood products need to pay much higher taxes since the GSP has been lifted. The spokesman revealed that the GSP lifting would likely cause Thailand to lose a competitive edge to other trade rivals like Vietnam and Indonesia, while Malaysia and Brazil, which face similar cuts like Thailand, could offset their losses of revenue through FTA promotion with the EU. Meanwhile, an FTA agreement between Thailand and the EU has not yet been signed. Thailand has benefited from tariff-free exports to the European Union, or EU, for many years. But due to certain EU regulations, these benefits have now expired. This is a result of Thailand's economy now being more mature. So what is the future for Thai exports to the EU? Banot Season-Sub reports.
For 3 consecutive years, the World Bank has classified Thailand as having an upper middle income economy. So according to the European Union's official Generalized Scheme of Preferences, or GSP policy, Thailand can no longer export tariff-free goods to developed countries in the EU. The expiration of these benefits has been causing much concern to a variety of Thailand's industries. Europe is Thailand's 4th-ranking export market. The total value of exports from the kingdom to Europe was around 700 billion baht, which is about 9.8% of the country's total export earnings. About 60% of Thailand's exports to Europe gain GSP privileges. To find out how the private and public sector should adjust for the change, NBT World spoke with Senior Vice President of the TMB Bank Analytics team, Dr. Bintarong Suwanakiri.
From our analysis, we can break the impact into 3 phases. The initial phase, just a general listing of what tariffs we must pay now and the utilization of the GSP system. We can see that the initial impact may not seem as much. It amounts to around 6 billion baht. That's roughly around 3% of total export to EU and only 0.4% of our total export entirely to the global economy. So you can see the initial impact is not as much as many people fear it would be. However, the more serious concern is in the second phase and the third phase of impact. In the second phase is the competitive phase, in which our products now must compete with countries who still have GSP and countries who have signed the FTA with the EU, an agreement in which Thailand have not had reached an agreement with the EU yet. And in the final phase, of course, there may be consideration of relocation or hesitance of investment into these industries from foreign investors because of us losing the GSP privilege from the EU. So overall, it's something that does not only happen within this year, the year that we lose GSP. We have to monitor this over time for the next couple of years to assess the full impact. There are actually 2 parts that we can do to deal with this issue. The government part, basically the utmost important action to take now is to try to restart negotiation of FTA with the EU. Although EU have decided to put this off since our coup happened last year. On the private sector side, some industry, even with GSP, we are actually losing competitiveness very quickly, such as the seafood market, such as the garment industry, the labor-intensive industries. These are the industry. Either we have to completely revamp the technology used in the country, or we need to relocate the industries to cheaper countries with still competitive costs. If they cannot relocate, then they need to find alternative markets. We are receiving this opportunity of entering the ASEAN community. So exploring market in the neighboring countries is actually an attractive option for those who cannot relocate and need to find new markets to replace the EU exports.
So despite losing the benefits with the expiration of the GSP, resulting in a loss of around 5 to 6 billion baht, according to Dr. Bintarong, the overall export market should not feel that much effect. Meanwhile, businesses should seek alternative markets, as this is clearly a suitable time to expand exports to different countries, especially in the ASEAN market. Panosi Sinsap, reporting.
Thank you to Kun Pano for that report, and that's the end of today's edition of Thailand Moves Forward. Before our quick break, let's have a look at the exchange rates and commodity prices.
A strong nation, Thailand is promoting 12 core values for the good of the people. The 4th core value: seeking direct and indirect knowledge and education.
Even if we don't see them, they are amongst us. And they're hungry. Slay your power-sucking monsters. Take their power away. Think when you plug.
Faithful Buddhists are invited to donate to the building of a huge Buddha statue known as Pra Putta Metta. It's to be constructed at Tepratown Temple, Soi Dao, Jantaburi. With a 20,000 baht donation, the donor's name will be engraved on the foundations of the statue. Those wishing to contribute may make their donations at the Royal Thai Embassy or at the Consulate General in each country, 7-Eleven convenience stores and stores with counter service signs, Rung Thai Bank, Siam Commercial Bank, or Bangkok Bank. Please contact the phone number shown for more details.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline, and in our ASEAN and Beyond news, a government official yesterday said Indonesian investigators may release some initial findings next week into last month's crash of an AirAsia passenger jet that killed 162 people, but the full preliminary report will not be made public. Data from radar and the aircraft's 2 black box flight recorders is providing investigators with a clearer picture of what occurred during the final minutes of Flight QZ8501. Transport Minister Ignatius Jonan on Tuesday told a parliamentary hearing that the plane had climbed faster than normal in its final minutes and then stalled. Investigators are expected to submit a preliminary report to the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, early next week, in line with ICAO regulations that the preliminary report must be filed within 30 days of the date of the accident. The National Transportation Safety Committee told reporters that the report would be a preliminary one without comment or analysis, and it will not be exposed to the public. It said the report is for the consumption of those countries that are involved. The final report of the crash investigation findings, which will be made public, must be filed within a year. And elsewhere in the world, 100 robots danced in unison to the tune of music on Tuesday in a fashion reminiscent of the mass games. The 34-centimeter tall, 1-kilogram robot named Robi was designed by Tomotaka Takahashi, who manages the robotics company Robo Garage. The robots are not available right off the shelves. However, enthusiasts may be thrilled to know that the Robis have to be built. Toy and publishing company the Agostino Japan dismantled the robot into 75 pieces and put them in a weekly magazine on Robi. The reader is asked to reassemble the robot independently with a weekly installment of parts, 1 per week, for 1.5 years, starting in 2013. After testing an arm here and building a leg there, a Robi may be formed. A full complement of robot parts comes at a steep price of 140,000 yen, or $1,200 US when purchasing all weekly magazines. The company has done so to make the process of building and forking out the money for the diminutive robot less of a steep wall to scale. To date, about 60,000 Robis have been completed. And that's it for today's edition of Newsline. For any comments or suggestions, please feel free to email them to us at newsline.nbt@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook by simply typing in NNT, and you can check out our website at thainews.prd.go.th/newsing. We're going to say goodbye today with the 139th Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, which is the most famous and most prestigious dog show in the U.S., being held in New York. Have a great day. I'm Sandra Hanud Saha. Sawadee ka.